For my literacy history presentation, I chose to focus on events from my early childhood through high school experiences because I feel that they laid the foundation for me as an adult in my reading and writing ability. The first major event that I want to talk about is reading with my parents and my younger sister. So each night we would actually read together. Mainly my mom and my sister and I would read. And Chicka Chicka Boom Boom was actually my favorite of all. It helped me begin to learn my letters, and I also really liked the rhyming words in it. So the rhyming helped me to eventually learn to read it on my own to my sister and parents when originally they would read it to me. My mom actually said we read Chicka Chicka Boom Boom over and over and over again. She said sometimes it would be even multiple times a day. And in the end, she said that she even knew it by heart and didn't even have to look at the words anymore because we went through it so many times. So after reading Chicka Chicka Boom Boom together all the time, I wanted to start reading more challenging books. So some of the series that I enjoyed reading to my parents and to my sister were the Berenstain Bears series and the Olivia series. Again, there were more books in there, but these ones really stood out when I talked to my mom that I really enjoyed these book series. I really think that these books helped me start enjoy reading because I learned that you could share reading with people. And in doing so, I feel like that actually encouraged my younger sister to begin to read to us and also enjoy the experience of reading together. One thing I really want to emphasize though is I think that this reading with my parents and sister helped to build a stronger family relationship. And I know that from our readings, it emphasizes that when students feel comfortable, with their teachers, it makes learning easier. So I think that by building this stronger family connection through reading, that I was able to feel very supported in my reading and even writing ability later on. When thinking about this major event in my life, I was kind of connecting it to a lot of what we were reading in class. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Gambrell and Morrow explain that children do not benefit from being talked at or read to, but from being talked with and read with in ways requiring their response and activity. I think this reading with is really important too, and that's what I was doing with my parents. I was reading with them and I was reading with my sister. I didn't feel like it was one way or the other. We would talk about the reading, discuss it together, and I think that is so important for students to have that experience. And then also from Fletcher and Portaluppi, if you believe as we do that relationships greatly influence our students' ability to learn from us and with us, this single factor is reason enough to read aloud regularly to students. So this ties back to me talking about how this helped to build a stronger family relationship. Same thing in the classroom. You're building a stronger classroom community through reading aloud regularly to your students, and they will feel more supported, and that will again help to build that relationship in the class so that they feel very supported and comfortable when they enter your classroom. So then thinking about how to apply this to my own classroom. So I think it's really important to read challenging texts with my students and then discuss the important content as we are reading. Again, sometimes these challenging texts, students will need support in doing so, and reading together can help tackle some challenging topics they run into. And again, I emphasized this before that reading together builds a stronger classroom community. We can get closer as a class. And again, the support, not only teacher to student, but student to student. So, reading together, I think, can really begin to allow students to feel very comfortable and safe when they enter the classroom to ask questions and feel comfortable sharing their thoughts. And then lastly, I think students need to feel supported by their teacher in the classroom. When I was reading with my parents, they would help me along the way as I was learning my letters and learning to read. Same process goes for even my students in high school. They need to feel supported throughout their journey of reading these more challenging texts, especially in science. We do tackle some challenging topics, and my students need to feel supported by me if we are tackling more challenging material that they may not be as familiar with. My second major event that I want to talk to you about is the writer's workshop experience I had in elementary school. So, we actually had the opportunity to write and illustrate our own books during this period of time. You can see some of my books off to the side here. I went through my old box of things that my mom has saved, and you can see there was a variety of styles for them. The teacher actually allowed us to choose what we wanted to write about, which was a lot of fun because you can see my variety of topics. I have a Halloween topic here, I have a topic about animals and birds, things like that. So I really liked that choice aspect. And then what was cool too is, as you can see in the picture, we were able to have fabric or hardcover books that could be shared out with our classmates and families. So we were actually creating a real book instead of just writing things down on paper. What was also really great about this writer's workshop is that not only did I enjoy writing and illustrating in school, but I wanted to do it outside of school. My mom said that she actually had to go and buy more of the hardcover books so that I could do it at home as well because I wanted to. And what else was really cool about this was that this experience was made authentic. We felt like real authors as we were doing this instead of just, like I said before, writing it on a single sheet of paper. You can see a little clip from the back of the book. We actually had an about the author section. So, again, it's made more authentic. We felt like we were doing this for a purpose. We were real authors in this scenario. And like I said before as well, we were able to share it out with our classmates and with our families. So we truly felt like an author instead of just, we need to write this to get a grade. As I was thinking about my experiences in Writer's Workshop in elementary school, I couldn't help but think about the Gambrell and Morrow texts that we've been reading. First off, they talk about, as with reading, writing development is best supported through authentic experiences. I cannot emphasize this enough, and this is a goal that I'm actually going to start making for my science classes to provide more authentic experiences. Like I mentioned in this writer's workshop, we actually felt like real authors writing for a purpose because we could share it out with people after we've completed our actual books instead of just, again, writing on a sheet of paper. And that sharing experience also ties in here. So, children love to perform their practiced oral reading for an audience of either parents or other students in the building. So, what a great way for them to practice their oral reading with their classmates, their parents, other people within the school with their own writing. So, they're able to share out these texts that they made, a book on their own, and they can practice their oral reading ability while also sharing their love for writing. After reflecting on this, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of providing opportunities for students to share out their written work with their classmates in person or even online. I've been thinking about the idea of actually incorporating student blogs this upcoming year for them to have more opportunities to share out what they're writing. Because if they're just writing for a letter grade and I'm the only one who's seeing it, they really don't see the purpose in putting more effort in. I also think it's extremely important, as I keep saying, this authentic writing and sharing opportunities. We want them to feel like this writing that they're doing is meaningful and has a purpose in the real world outside of the classroom, and give them those opportunities to share not only with me, but with their classmates, with people even outside of the school, specialists, whatever we can figure out to get them to share out what they're writing about. And then finally, I need to provide students with choice in what they would like to write about. This can be hard for teachers at times, but you can narrow down the choices. But again, give them some choice in either how they're writing or what exactly they're writing about or in what style, what format, so that they can feel that they're going to take that ownership of what they're writing and again, put more effort towards doing well. My third major event was in seventh grade. We did a multi genre project. So, Mrs. Dooms was my seventh grade teacher, and her goal was to expose us to a lot of different genres of writing. So, what she had us do was we had to pick three different genres, and we had to write about a specific topic of our choice. So, the topic that I chose were wooden cars. My dad has collected wooden cars in the past, and he actually belonged to what was called the Woody Club. So, that was a topic that I was really passionate about. And then I had to pick my genres. So my genre choices were a research paper, a eulogy, and a children's book. So again, we had to have a lot of different styles, a lot of different genres to write about. And what we had to do was research these different styles to make sure that we were matching those expectations set out in a rubric for each of those genres. And after we wrote in each genre, we had to talk about why we chose each of the types of genres for what we were writing about. So we had to reflect on the process of writing in that genre. What was really great about this project, too, was that we actually were able to present our topic to our teacher and our classmates. So we were able to share all this knowledge that we had gained through writing in all these different genres. I actually had my dad for my presentation bring in his wooden car, and I had everybody go outside and we talked about the car together. But what my dad was really surprised about was that he thought he was going to have to be doing a lot of the talking about the car. But because I was so interested in this topic and because I had written in all these different genres, I was very well versed in everything I needed to know. So I was really confident and able to present all the information I needed to my classmates with little help from my dad because I was so confident in doing so. As I think about the multi-genre project, I couldn't help but connect it to a lot of the Fletcher and Portaluppi reading chapters that we've been looking at throughout the course. First off, students need to take risks to develop as writers. You'll want them to try new genres and experiment with different literacy techniques. That is exactly what this project was centered around. This idea that you want students to get out of their comfort zone and write in a different way than they're used to. So I chose the eulogy and I chose the children's book. Yes, I did a research paper, which wasn't as interesting to me, but these are all different genres, exposing students to new ways in writing. But she also provided that idea of choice. So here, still student choice is the crucial fuel that drives a healthy workshop. And choice isn't limited to deciding what to write about. We invite students to have choice in length, audience, and the pace with which they write. So again, she gave us that opportunity. We picked different genres of different lengths. Yes, we had to choose our topic as well. So there was a lot of choice options here, and we had a lot of freedom in choosing how to write in these genres. Finally, I want to talk about that idea of rubrics. So she did provide us with a rubric. And Fletcher and Portaluppi explained students benefit from our judgment when it is tied to specific criteria that students understand. So the genres each had their own set of criteria that we needed to meet, and we had those expectations beforehand, which made us more confident in approaching this project. Thinking about connections to my own classroom, first thing I want to do this year is expose students to more science genres. I want to expose them to lab reports, to research papers, to charts and diagrams and science articles. And I want them to actually try to write in those ways and provide those authentic creating and sharing opportunities. This is where I bring in that idea of a blog again. I really want them to be able to blog about different topics and ideas and share that out with people not only in their class, but other classes and even people outside of the classroom. And then finally, this idea of choice again keeps coming up, but I really want to provide students with choice in what they want to research and write about. Yes, I can give them some guidelines or give them choices of topics, but I can still give them that choice. It may not be exactly everything is up to them, but we want them to be able to have some choice in what they want to write about to again motivate them to want to do well and want to share this out. As the school years progressed, I started to enjoy reading actually less and less because the readings became more challenging. And for me, I was a slow reader anyways, not because I couldn't understand the material, but because I had to go slower to do so. There was actually one type of reading that I realize now is actually reading was in band and orchestra from elementary through high school, and I had to read music. So I played the bass and the flute, and I learned to read both bass and treble clef. It was challenging to do so because there was a language of treble clef and there was a language of bass clef that I had to be able to distinguish between each time I picked up the bass or the flute. I had to learn to interpret notes and musical terminology and vocabulary in the pieces that I was playing. Luckily, I had the support of my teachers in elementary, middle, and high school, but music was basically its own type of language. And I had to practice it often and study it in order to be successful when I would play my instruments. But again, as I emphasized earlier, this was a type of reading that I actually enjoyed and felt confident in doing so. And I think that's really important for students to feel that confidence in approaching a type of genre. What was so great about being able to read music was that I could then perform it for people. So I had competitions, I had non competitive performances. I was even the bass player for the Sweeney Todd musical at my high school, which was a lot of fun. And eventually, my love of music blossomed into me writing my own music and my own songs. Not because I was told to do so, but because, again, I felt confident and enjoyed doing so. My dad talks about when I was little, he says this is the mentality of ladies and gentlemen introducing Megan. That was what I would do when I was little. But I think this is really important to recognize too is that I always wanted to share my experiences with people. And I think that music allowed me to share my reading and my writing with an audience. Whereas when I was reading just a novel, on my own, I didn't feel like I had that experience to share as much with people. And I think that's why I really was drawn towards music. As I think about learning to play music and read music, I can't help but emphasize the amount of vocabulary that we had to learn. So, Gambrell and Morrow explain if you can't understand what the words mean or the concepts in the text, then comprehension is impossible. The instructional implications are that teachers need to build vocabulary and provide core knowledge to enhance comprehension. So, this is what my teachers did from elementary through high school in band and orchestra. They helped to build our musical vocabulary. And over time, it just kept expanding, and we felt confident playing these different types of pieces because we had this repertoire of musical vocabulary that we could draw back on so that we would know how to play the pieces appropriately. Another point in Gambrell and Morrow was this idea of motivation. So I talked about how I felt really drawn towards music because I enjoyed it, I was interested in it, I felt confident in doing so. So Gambrell and Morrow explain an interested student reads because he enjoys it. A dedicated student reads because he believes it's important, and a confident student reads because he or she can do it. I think this is something that every teacher really needs to think about because we can't only think about a student being interested in a topic. They need to be dedicated to reading and want to do it and believe it's important. And then they have to feel confident in doing so. If something's too challenging for them, they're going to try to get away from it. So again, we really need to think about we want our students to be interested in it. We want them to be dedicated in whatever they're reading. And then we want them to be confident in doing so and feel supported in the process. Thinking about how music has had such a big impact on my life, I want to think about how I can use that experience to tie that to my own classroom, to have that kind of impact on my students. So, first off, I want to emphasize that literacy development takes continuous practice, just like I would practice an instrument, with feedback and scaffolding. So, students, again, will need to continuously practice reading and writing. But they do need to have some support with feedback and scaffolding along the way. We can't expect them to be perfect in a day. Just like with me in music, my teachers had to scaffold new vocabulary, things along the way to help us become more confident musicians. And there is that word vocabulary. Vocabulary support is essential for students to be successful. In science, I need to give students background on vocabulary in order for them to understand what we're reading and even what we're writing about. So, again, vocabulary support is extremely important in the classroom, especially for my high school students. And then I also want to emphasize that students must take some initiative to help their literacy development. We can give them all these different resources and tell them what to do, but they still need to take the initiative to do so. That's what I did with music. I loved it so much that I wanted to do it. I took the initiative to study and practice and learn more. We do need to give students some independence in doing so. We cannot force them to do this. It has to be something that they want to do on their own. And that is such an important thing to think about. And then finally, I really liked this point from our Gambrell and Morrow reading is that students need more intrinsic motivation because the extrinsic motivation will not last. So again, they need to be intrinsically motivated. They need to do this for themselves because those outside awards are not going to last. When they get the A, that's not going to last forever. When they get the candy for doing so, it's not going to last forever. So again, this is that again, independence. They need to take the initiative to do so and be intrinsically motivated to be successful readers and writers and develop in their literacy. Thank you so much for taking the time to view my literacy history. Please feel free to email me if you have any questions. Thank you.